All right, so hello everyone. My name is Michael with LA Networks, and today we will be going over an introduction to Cisco Duo and going through a little demo to kind of show you some of the features that it has and the things that you can do with Duo. All right, to start off with, there are some housekeeping items that I have to get through. We are streaming this from kind of multiple different platforms, but we do want to make sure that people are able to comment and leave messages for us. We do have a Q&A running that you can ask questions to that's being moderated live, so there will be someone there available to answer any questions that you might have. You can watch this from Facebook. You may be watching from our actual our website or from YouTube. So you can comment on whichever platform that you're using. If you are using our website, please also make sure you sign the guest book. We are offering a kind of a free trial of Duo and a discount on implementation, but you do have to register to our guest book to be eligible. So if after the seminar, if you're kind of interested or just want to learn more, make sure you sign up. Even if you maybe don't want to do a trial, if you just want to set up like another session, if you have additional questions or want to get like more of a hands-on demo or introduction, just sign up, let us know, and then we will get back to you with additional details. All right, so a little bit about us as a company. LA Networks was founded in 1997. We are mainly engineers. We don't have a very large sales department. We're kind of managed, led by engineers. That's pretty much what we hang our hat on. So if you're talking to someone from LA Networks, chances are you're talking to an engineer instead of a salesperson or a marketing person. So our 5 verticals are managed services. If you need someone to help kind of manage your network, uh, manage your collaboration systems or anything IT related, we do provide that. Collaboration, if you are using voice over IP, if you're using Cisco Call Manager, CCX, Expressway, Jabber, we do have a dedicated team that supports any collaboration platforms that you may use. We do also have a data center team working with Cisco UCS servers or HyperFlex. We have our enterprise networking team that can help you with anything related to switching, routing, or firewalls. And we do have our security team that can help you with Duo implementation. If you're running Cisco ICE and need help with wired .1x, wireless .1x, or anything else you may need security related. All right, so we have been in business for 20 plus years. We are a Los Angeles-based company, as you can kind of tell from our name, but we do work nationally and globally. We are over 70% engineers, with a quarter being CCIEs, and most of our business comes from referrals and repeat engagements. So we do kind of hang our hat on the fact that we do a good job, good enough that people will often come back for more business, even if they happen to move to different organizations. They'll bring us along with them because they trust in the work that we do and the uh, services that we provide. All right, so uh, the subject of the webinar is Cisco Duo, what it is, what it can do, and a demo to kind of show you a little bit about the dashboard and how it will look to your end users. Okay, so what is a challenge when it comes to your current security landscape? Uh, as kind of the workforce and the IT infrastructure changes, we are experiencing more and more people using our internal network resources, cloud resources, at home, in the office, pretty much anywhere they might be. So with that, it's increased the kind of the surface area for what you as a security person has to protect. It's no longer you have your devices in your office that you have to protect. Now you have to be worried about maybe people using their own devices at home, people using office equipment at home, people using uh, maybe cell phones on your network, people using your wireless. It's kind of expanded the scope of what you have to be aware of and to protect. And as the environment gets more complex, uh, implementing kind of security in your environment becomes more complex. Um, with that though is you often have to deal with the fact that even though the kind of environment might be more complex, people don't really have a high tolerance for actual work disruption. People want things to work well. They don't want anything to kind of stop productivity. So those are some of the challenges that most people will face as far as in their IT environment with trying to implement security. Uh, but there are those additional people that have compliance requirements also that they have to be aware of and make sure that everything falls under. All right, so with that, what is Duo? So Duo was started in 2010. It was initially started off as a kind of a low cost, easier to use alternative to RSA Secure ID. So the person who started Duo was a cybersecurity professional who kind of wanted to find out from other people about some of the challenges they were facing, and trying to kind of get ahead of the curve as far as what people needed. So with that, one of the things that was kind of in demand but wasn't widely used was two-factor authentication. At the time, it was mainly used primarily by financial institutions because they were the people that were mainly being attacked most often. And then eventually, kind of any attacks that would happen to banks or financial institutions would kind of trickle down to other companies. So as kind of one of the security tools that financial institutions use, the founder kind of saw it as an opportunity to be able to kind of expand that and make two-factor authentication more mainstream so that more companies would be able to kind of leverage that and use that for their own kind of security infrastructure. So that kind of ended up being the timing ended up being kind of very beneficial for Duo just because cybersecurity has changed a lot since 2010. It's no longer kind of financial institutions are the most vulnerable. Pretty much at this point, everyone is vulnerable. So everyone needs to have some sort of more mainstream broad security protections. And Cisco kind of seeing that uh, Duo's security portfolio was kind of very, number one, very secure, very easy to use, very um, cost uh, sensitive for people that may not be able to afford um, the more expensive MFA options. Cisco acquired Duo in 2019. All right, so kind of the a little bit of buzzword that's being kind of thrown around a lot now in security is the zero trust uh, architecture. So what is zero trust? Zero trust pretty much means that you do not trust anyone implicitly. If they're on network, if they're off network, whether it's a physical device or a virtual device, or if that's a network location, you have to prove that you are a user that can be trusted and a device that can be trusted. Most breaches kind of occur now due to abuse or stolen credentials. So just a username and password isn't sufficient to kind of protect your resources and everything else that you want to protect. So Cisco Zero Trust. So Zero Trust isn't defined by a individual product or kind of a individual vendor. It's more of a kind of security kind of framework that you want to build your infrastructure around. So with that, there's not a single product that can kind of solve all of your zero trust needs. Um, it's kind of more of multiple products that kind of work together to establish zero trust in your environment. So for kind of user level trust, there is Duo with user trust and device trust. Tetration can be used to kind of log and monitor your workload. Uh, and SD access can provide things like granular control for specific people and devices in your network. All right, so where does Duo fit into Zero Trust? So Duo is used for authentication, verification, and trust of devices. So every application or resource that your company uses, you can use Duo to verify that people get access to only the things that they should have access to, that they are who they say they are, and that their device is something that should be trusted and does not have potential vulnerabilities or or avenues for like a malicious attacker to gain access to your resources. All right, so Duo can confirm user identities using two-factor authentication. So what that means is you don't rely on just a username and password anymore. That is not quite enough for um, kind of the level of protection that people need now. You want to uh, be able to have not just username and password to authenticate users and make sure they are who they say they are. I'll go over that in the next slide, but there's kind of a few different factors that can use for multi-factor authentication. So another aspect of Duo is that you can gain visibility into access activities. So a big part of kind of zero trust architecture is being able to log and manage and see how people are being granted access and what they're actually gaining access to, and to see individual workflows. So Duo can help you be able to see who's accessing what from what type of devices and gain more visibility into your network. Ensuring trustiness of user devices. So most malicious attacks don't happen from outside in. They kind of work from inside out. Once a user has a malicious actor has access to one device, they'll kind of use that to leverage and gain access to multiple devices. So you want to make sure that devices that are accessing your resources are are protected, aren't vulnerable, and that they should be trusted. And Duo has policies that can help you kind of manage who gets access based off of um, different things that they may have, depending on whether or not their operating system is up to date, whether or not their browser is up to date, and you can make policies to block that or force them to update things as they come in. All right, enforcing risk-based and adaptive access policies. You can set granular policies for each application that you're trying to protect with Duo. You can use that to only allow access to specific groups, specific users, and things like that. So to get more kind of granular control into who can access what. Enable secure connections to all applications. So with Duo has kind of multiple avenues where you can tie in your cloud-based applications or your on-premise applications to be able to leverage kind of two-factor authentication so that people can access all the resources that they would need to for your company, regardless of whether it's on the cloud, whether it's on-prem, and regardless of whether um, they're in the office or outside of the office. So I've kind of talked a lot about what two-factor authentication is and multi-factor authentication. So um, it's kind of good to get like an actual specific definition. So multi-factor authentication is authentication or access being granted after presenting two or more pieces of evidence to prove that you are who you say you are. So generally, those factors are the knowledge of something, something the user knows. Most cases, it's a password, possession of something, that's something the user has. Um, Usually, this can be either token code running off of either hardware token or a 2FA app like on Duo, and inference, something the user is. This is some kind of something that's more become prevalent recently with biometrics. That's like your fingerprint scanner on your cell phone. Um, and then also maybe if you have laptops are generally getting more and more biometric features to kind of use the same sort of fingerprint technology uh, to provide access. And two-factor is generally just any two of the above factors listed. Okay, so device trust. So we talked about kind of user trust, but kind of a big aspect of zero trust is also you have to trust the device that people are connecting from. So Duo has a few different kind of options to give you more visibility into the devices that are one providing the 2FA authentication and the endpoints that are actually accessing your resources. So device visibility. The Duo app and the Duo Health app can provide information about devices, operating systems, browser versions without the use of an MDM. I'll demonstrate more of that in the kind of the demo portion, but even if you don't have like an MDM deployed for all of your devices, or maybe your end user is connecting from a maybe corporate managed device, you can still get information about what type of device they're connecting from. Security posture. So a big vulnerability nowadays is that despite kind of updates and patches being released to kind of fix up vulnerabilities, not everyone is as up to date on updating all of their equipment. Um, Especially if it's not corporate managed, which is kind of something we're seeing more and more with remote workers. So with Duo, you can see the operating system version and the browser version and produce policies to force people to be up to date before they get access. Continuous inspection. This is not kind of specific to Duo itself, but Duo can be integrated with Cisco AMP, which is the advanced malware protection, and leverage AMP to continuously check to make sure that there aren't any malware infested machines. And if there are, it can leverage AMP to help block those devices from gaining access to your resources or applications protected by Duo. All right. So how does Duo gather visibility? Um, For mobile devices, anything working as a 2FA device, there is the actual application that can get information about the device that it is running on. So with this, you can get information about operating system and different aspects of your 2FA device, whether it's Android, whether it's Apple, what version it's running, make sure it's up to date. All of that can be kind of gathered just from the mobile app. For people on laptops and desktops, or even people maybe accessing just some resources maybe through a browser on your mobile app, uh, with the kind of web browser, everyone has user agent information that gets sent over. So because Duo is hosting a login page, Duo can get information about your endpoint device just from accessing the Duo portal. With laptops and desktops, there is a Duo device health application that you can install separately that has some MDM Lite features that can give you more information about the current health of that endpoint. All right, supported applications. So I'm not going to kind of go over every single application, but Duo has kind of a broad spectrum of applications that it does support. Um, just natively and with good documentation. Uh, they can be cloud applications, on-prem applications, and they do have uh, avenues and different features in place so that you can use SSO or SAML or even Radius, even if your application isn't kind of directly listed as being supported. If it supports SAML or Radius or different kind of web APIs, there is a good chance that Duo can support it just with some minor customization. All right. So types of authenticators. So people that are maybe used to the old RSA secure ID token, Duo also has the hardware token that it can support. But for most people, and for kind of the most one of the more secure methods that people use is the Duo push with the Duo application running on your mobile device. Um, so with that, what it does is Duo sends kind of a push notification, so you get a little pop-up on your phone app uh, to approve or deny access after the user enters in their username and password. People can also use SMS or a voice call for authentication. Um, those may require telephony credits, and generally SMS is kind of built on a not super secure platform. So the push would probably be a more secure method for most people to get two-factor authentication. For people that are um, kind of moving towards USB authenticators. I know that's a requirement for some people for compliance reasons. Duo does also support YubiKey and U2F or FIDO-based USB authenticators. So that is also something that you can integrate with Duo for use in your for use as an authenticator. So Duo deployment topology. Uh, so Duo can be deployed in multiple ways. You can have direct integration if it's supported with your web application. Usually this will be just a cloud-based application that can tie directly into the Duo cloud platform. For things that are on-prem or maybe you do your authentication through LDAP or Radius, you can deploy a Duo authentication proxy uh, running a LDAP or Radius authentication service that your different maybe networking devices, like maybe your firewall can use as a Radius server to provide two-factor authentication. The Duo Access Gateway. This is kind of SSO or SAML-based authentication for some popular cloud services such as Office 365 or AWS. The Duo Network Gateway, this is more for kind of your on-prem or internal resources that people want access to. So what this does is it provides a gateway for people to use two-factor authentication to get access to your internal websites or apps or SSH server without having to use a VPN tunnel. So without having the VPN in, they can connect to the Duo network gateway and get access to your internal resources securely using two-factor authentication. All right, the Duo product line. So Duo comes in pretty much three different feature tiers. The Duo MFA, there is Duo Access, and Duo Beyond. Um, so Duo MFA, you get kind of the standard two-factor authentication. You get some device insight, but the features start going up with kind of the additional tiers that you go into. With Duo Access, you get more granular control into your policies and controls. You get more device insight. All right, so that is it for the introduction. Moving on to the demo portion. So one thing to note, this is a demo environment, so uh, some things may not appear exactly the way you would see it in a production environment, but to kind of give you an idea of what features are available and how everything kind of looks, this is kind of more than enough for that. So here we are in the dashboard of Duo. From here, it kind of gives you a broad overall view of your current Duo environment. Actually, I'm being told there's some audio issues, so give me 1 second. I will be. Oh, never mind. I guess it fixed itself. All right. Yeah. So this is just the general broad overview of your environment. At the top here, you get an idea of your users. So bypass users are people that you can set up to kind of bypass some of the authentications. It's not generally kind of recommended or maybe best practice, but you may need to have some people set up that way based on how your company is structured. People that are locked out, these are people that have failed authentication too many times, so they are currently locked out from being able to log in. Inactive people, these are users that have not logged in or used Duo to log in some time. So in this way, you can kind of see if who's having issues logging in by looking at locked out, or people who just aren't using Duo under the inactive. There is a tile here for endpoints. From here, you can get kind of a quick view to see what devices may be out of date and how much that has changed in the last 7 days. So if like a recent patch came out that was kind of something maybe large enough um, to require an update, and you see kind of a big tick up in the change, you would be able to tell from here that you have X number of endpoints that need to be updated. So even if you don't have an MDM or something specific to manage those endpoints, you can kind of get an idea of whether or not those devices are updated. Towards the bottom here, you can get an idea of the amount of authentications and the amount of failures. And down here, it gives you kind of uh, more detailed authentication logs. Um, so with any of these, if you click into pretty much any of these tiles, it'll take you into kind of the direct report or section in your Duo dashboard. But this is a good way just to get kind of like a broad overview of how your deployment is doing. Device insights. So this is kind of what I talked about, how Duo can give you information about your devices and environment without requiring an MDM. So under device endpoints, you can get an idea of the different types of operating systems running, how many are maybe using an end-of-life platform, how many are out of date, and an idea of how many are up to date. And then they have quick links here where you can kind of generate policies based off of specific operating system information, but just get like a quick view of whether or not you maybe need to send out your team to make sure everyone's updated. You can kind of get that information here. So trusted endpoints, that was a feature of Duo Beyond that I talked about before. This will give you an idea of kind of how many devices are listed as trusted, how many are not trusted, and then how many are just maybe you just haven't set up to be a trusted or not trusted endpoint. This is kind of just more reporting for you to be able to see what operating systems are running and whether or not they are out of date. And this is kind of the same thing to give information about what browsers people are running and how many of them are out of date or need to be patched. And this is kind of with the browser information. You also get some information about plugins that are being run. And from here, you can get information about people that may have out-of-date the plugins. And a lot of this information is clickable. You can kind of filter out certain options in the reports. But most things you can click to get kind of directly into that specific information piece on the left side here. But this is kind of, yeah, more like a general overview. From the device insights, you can also get more granular information about different device types. So mobile devices that are running. Here you can get a breakdown of the different OSs that are running Duo, information about the versions that are running. And then you have links here. We can kind of click and it'll take you into kind of a filter view under the 2FA devices. So you can get kind of a breakdown of what actual devices are maybe running iOS this and running this version and what user is kind of attached to those people. This section here can tell you if a device has been tampered for both iOS and Android. So tampered would mean that they're running their Duo mobile app on a mobile device that is either maybe it's rooted if it's Android or it's jailbroken if it's iOS. So the reason you would maybe not want that to be allowed in your network is because usually if people root or jailbreak their devices, they get kind of deeper access into the either the shell or the kernel. They may be running kind of not uh, Apple or Android supported applications or supported applications. Um, so it could possibly mean that they're either running applications that they're not supposed to, or that their devices have been tampered with by maybe some sort of outside vector possibly. The section here for screen lock is generally a lot of security people, if people are going to be using their device for authentication, you want to make sure that their device locks, that just doesn't stay open, so that if the device is unattended, people aren't able to kind of directly get access. And you can also uh, see the statistics for whether or not they have biometrics enabled on their mobile device. So that's kind of part of that kind of inherent um, authentication factor. So it's kind of like something you are. So biometrics, your fingerprint, it's identifies you. It's something that you are, not something that you have that can be stolen, or not like a password that somebody can memorize from you. And then also it can check to see if your mobile disk is fully encrypted, which is a requirement for some security people. The device insight for laptops and desktops. Um, this will give you information about the operating system running off of endpoints that are accessing different items and getting the Duo login portal page, or that have the Duo Health application installed. From here, you can also find out what version people are running, uh, an idea of the browsers that people are using, and then from here, information about what versions of those browsers people are using. And the vulnerability analysis will kind of give you information about whether or not those browsers are up to date. And kind of with most things in Duo, a lot of these are clickable. And then if you click on them, they'll take you to kind of specific information about those devices. So if you click on out of date here, it'll take you to the endpoint devices and give you a breakdown of what devices are out of date, what users are on those devices, and kind of what version those devices are actually running. So policies, this is where you would pretty much set up the different rules for your applications. There is a global policy that you can define, but you can also set up specific policies for each application. So so a few different things that you can do with the policy is you can um, make sure that only people that are enrolled in Duo can access those resources. You can also make it so that if the person isn't enrolled, there's a way to kind of push them through like a self-enrollment period when they first log in. You have some options for denying access based off of location. You can force, if you have the kind of the Duo Beyond, you can force only trusted endpoints to have access to specific applications or resources. Um, you can make it a requirement that they're running the Duo Health application. You can set up restrictions based off an operating system. So if their operating system is end of life or out of date, you can just have it set so those devices are blocked. You can also set up restrictions based off of browsers. With that, you can do things like force them to self-remediate, make them update their browser before they can get access, or just kind of maybe block them entirely. For some people that maybe have some requirements where some people on certain networks shouldn't have to go through two-factor authentication, you can set up authorized networks. You can allow only specific authentication methods, like for if you don't have telephony credits or you don't necessarily trust maybe the token code or the SMS text, you can make it so that the only supported methods are maybe the Duo push or maybe even like the USB authenticator key. And then also options like forcing people to make sure that they have screen lock enabled, full disk encryption on their mobile device, and also that they have also biometrics enabled on their mobile device. So to protect a application, you have to uh, have it set up in this section here. So these are kind of the demo applications that are set up. So if we kind of, let's just use LastPass as an example. Um, from here, you can kind of define the policy that's applied, see maybe what it's uh, getting from the global policy, but you can also have uh, specific group policies assigned and also have it set so that only specific groups can use that application. So if you have Duo sync to Active Directory, you can import in Active Directory groups and use those for this permission setting. Or you can kind of create groups in Duo itself and add users from there. So just kind of to get an idea of the applications that Duo supports, um, you click on Protect an Application. It'll give you information about kind of the documented apps that Duo supports. Um, if it's not listed here, but your application supports maybe Radius or LDAP or has some REST APIs that can support, you can kind of use some of these more generic applications. And everything here has a link to documentation that'll actually take you to Duo's documents page, where it kind of gives you information about how you would get the two-factor authentication set up with that application and Duo. All right, so the user section here, this is either people you've manually created or people you have kind of synced with Active Directory. So there's a search bar to let you search for a specific user if maybe someone's uh, maybe complains that they're not able to log in. You can search for that user here. But if you kind of just go into that specific user, you can kind of see how that person set up, see what their username is, their current status, their recent activity, their two-factor authentication that's being used as far as like the phone here. You can see what the kind of their mobile number is. That's used for things like the SMS text, what their operating system is, and what model phone that they're using. The endpoint section here is information about the actual device that the user used to try to kind of access those resources. So from here, we can see that the person maybe tried to log in to something on their Android device and also from their Windows 10 machines. Um, for the Windows 10 machines, they use Google Chrome. And for most of them, they were able to get in, but for one occasion, they did try to log in and they had their firewall disabled. For people using hardware tokens, that could be kind of the Duo hardware token, or maybe the USB authenticator device. Those would be listed in these two sections here. They're tied to the user based off of serial number. And if you click on there, it just gives you information about the hardware token that's that person is using. So groups, this is where you would have either the Active Directory groups that you imported in or kind of your custom-made groups. And if you just click into the group, you just get information about what users are part of that group. So endpoints. So this would be considered any device that a user uses to try to log into a resource that Duo is protecting. From here, you can use specific filters here to filter out and see what people are maybe joining from Windows 10. If you want to get an idea of what people are maybe running end of life or out of date Windows 10 machines, you can kind of use the checkboxes here to filter. If you want to see if anybody's using Internet Explorer, um, you can have additional checkboxes here. And then this kind of just gives you information about what people are using to access your resources, so you can kind of get an idea of um, how secure their actual endpoint device is, um, or if they're maybe using something not corporate managed, or maybe if you do have an MDM, but you don't see that person having maybe patched or updated recently, you can kind of check here to see if there's something maybe weird, or if you see any kind of recent occurrence of that person actually still logging in and get information that way. 2FA devices. So these are the actual authenticator devices that Duo is aware of. So from here, you may see users um, logging in. So if somebody gets a new phone and they say they can't log in, you would kind of go in here or from the user page and see if maybe um, the the phone platform has changed or the model isn't correct, and make adjustments from here. You can kind of um, go into specifics for that device and see kind of the different information that Dio has collected. If you have SMS or calling authentication enabled, you can get an idea of kind of the credits that are being used here. And these are just kind of further filters that down to either phones or hardware tokens or USB authenticators. Trusted endpoints, so this is part of the kind of Duo Beyond. Um, it gives kind of information um, where you can set up how those trusted endpoints maybe get a certificate for authentication. Um, and it can kind of have to do with the integration with your MDM devices or endpoint detection response devices to try to set up some kind of automated blocking. Reports. So this will give you information about how Duo is being used. The authentication log gives you information about uh, who is logging in, to what application, from what device, and what they use for their secondary authentication method. So from here, you can get an idea of who's failing and why, what people are using, if they're using SMS or the do a push, what times people are trying to log in, and information about maybe what application those people are using. The telephony logs, these are for people that are using the SMS push. You can get an idea of what user is using that most often. So if you maybe decide that you don't maybe want to move away from those telephony credits and force everyone to use push, this log can kind of help show you what users you may have to uh, take more of a specific approach to let them know that they shouldn't use that option anymore before you kind of disable it entirely. Administrator action, this is just kind of a report to see what admins made changes. So if it's being managed by multiple people, you would kind of know who made what change if something happens to go wrong. This is just a breakdown of the authentication summary, uh, what applications being the most used, how often people are failing or being successful with authentication, the method that people are mostly using, and deployment progress. This would be kind of most useful when you're deploying Duo. You can get an idea of how many users are enrolled and not enrolled. So if you're kind of rolling it out and you don't know 100% yet if people are using the product or if maybe people haven't successfully enrolled, this would be kind of a page that gives you like a breakdown of how complete your deployment is. And then policy impact. So policy impact gives you information about how a policy is performing, um, how many authentications you're blocking, um, why an a user or device may be blocked, users that are being blocked by those policies, and it gives you kind of information about how well your policy is doing. Um, if you see a lot of failures and you think maybe it's like a user training issue, this can kind of help you kind of get an idea of how well people are maybe trained or how your policy is kind of affecting maybe um, production or how people are working. And denied authentications. This is a report that can give you an idea of whether or not maybe some people's credentials are compromised. So with this report, you can see that um, how many authentication failures were denied. Um, that means kind of purposely denied. So in the kind of the user demo portion, I'll kind of show you the different options that you get. But Duo isn't just like a approve or deny, and that's it. If you deny, you have an option of specifying whether or not you accidentally try to log in or if you didn't try to log in at all. And with that, you can get kind of information about if possibly someone has gotten someone else's credentials. So if you see kind of a lot of people purposely denying authentication because they didn't really try to log in, that will help you get an idea of, oh, maybe that person's credentials have been compromised and someone's trying to log in as that person but doesn't have access to their Duo mobile app as two-factor authentication. Um, so from there, you can kind of use that to kind of leverage and expand into kind of maybe your different logging platforms to see if maybe that person's tried to log in using those credentials anywhere else and help you kind of tamp down and investigate. So that's kind of the brief overview of how the Duo dashboard works and different things that you can do there. Um, Generally, a lot of questions people have is how implementing Duo affects or looks to the end user. So uh, Duo has a web page that's kind of available for everyone, demo.duo.com, where you can kind of have specific demos that'll show you how it would look for the end user based off of some of the applications that you're using um, and the methods that you're using. They have a section down here where you can kind of use a application demo using your own phone. This I'm not really going to be using just because they do kind of require you to use your cell phone number to be entered in. I don't necessarily want to have my cell phone number recorded for this webinar for everyone, so um, I'm going to not do this portion, but it's available for everyone to kind of try out if they want and see exactly what it would look like on your mobile device itself. But for everything else, you can kind of use any of these demos available here. So if you want to see or kind of demo for maybe someone in your office what a Duo push would look like, you'd go to the Duo push demo. So this one's kind of showing your Outlook application. So someone tries to log in and they get taken to the secondary kind of Duo login page. So if you have a USB authenticator, you'd plug it in at this time. If you have the call or passcode functions enabled for the authentication method, you can choose those here. But for us, if we just want to just send the Duo push, um, because that's the more secure option, we press Duo push, and this is how it would appear on kind of your end user's mobile device. You'll just get a notification saying there's a login request. It would give you information about the username the person was trying to use, um, and information about the location, IP address, and the time. So if your end user did not try to log in, uh, they would hit deny. And then there's options here for why you were denying this request. You could put it seems fraudulent if you never tried to log in and you got this request anyway. And it would show up in the authentication report as denied authentication. And then it would give an idea for your kind of your security admins to say, oh, this person had a successful first portion of the authentication, but it failed the 2FA, and the user notified that it was fraudulent. So you can kind of investigate there. Did that person use that username to log into anything else? Is this person's credentials compromised in any way? And use that as part of your investigation, and also to kind of tamp down and unlock down that user. And also to investigate to see if maybe there's any other breaches in your network. Generally, people don't do isolated attacks. So if that credential is compromised and being used in an attack, chances are there's something kind of bigger going on in your environment than just that. So Duo can kind of give you a little bit of a heads up about stuff like that that's going on to your applications and your network. So if this person was trying to log in, they would just hit approve. And then from there, they just get logged into their Outlook page. So if you want to do something like self-remediation policy, this is like if their browser is out of date, the person tries to sign in. At the bottom, it says your browser is out of date. If they try to send a push, they can get the same notification, but they'll get the Firefox out of date if that's what they're using to log in. And then there'll generally be some sort of link to make them remediate the problem on their own without having to maybe tie up IT resources. So Duo can also tie into just kind of Windows login. So this user tries to log in to their computer. They get the kind of the Duo the login page. The same thing. They can, for this one, we'll just say call me. They accept. They'll hear a prompt. This is something you kind of set up for what they have to do to get access. If they successfully authenticate, it'll just log them into their computer. The device health application. This is more of a Duo Beyond feature. So if they're maybe using OWA or Office 365 to log in, they enter in their credentials. The Duo kind of portal will tie into the Duo Health app that is running on the person's actual device, and from there they can see any health reasons that their device would not be allowed. So for instance, in this one, this person disabled their firewall. If they click on that option, it'll give them information about how to turn it back on so they can't get access. So maybe they have to turn off their firewall to run some sort of application momentarily, but that's not something that's really allowed on your corporate network. This is a way to kind of force remediation for that before they can actually connect to any of your resources. Yeah, and then they would just uh, unlock, then they turn on their firewall, and then if they refresh, the Duo Device Health app checks again. And this time, because they don't have any health issues, they can do kind of the standard authentication, hit approve, and then they get access to their Office 365. So there are kind of a few different demos available. This is just demo.duo.com. It's free for anyone to use if they want to kind of play around, see what the end user experience would be like. If you want to demo it for anyone in your environment, this is pretty much available 24 hours a day for you to kind of show what that would look like for anyone. With that, we only have a few minutes left. That is the end of uh, the webinar. We will keep the chat window going on for a little bit longer. If anybody has any questions, the moderator will still be answering. If you have any questions, or if you want to set up maybe private demo or introduction with us, you can reach me at mkim, that's Mike Kilo India Mike at la-networks.com. Also, I want to kind of remind everyone, if you're watching from our website, make sure that you sign the guest book. That'll give us information and also provide you access for that discounted implementation if you're interested. Um, it'll also kind of give us a way if you kind of want to follow up and want to get more information or schedule something to discuss Duo. It'll give us kind of your information so that we can reach out to you to answer any questions or do any demos or help you with anything you may need with that. Uh, if you have any other questions about anything else, firewalls, routing, switching, feel free to reach out to us also. We pretty much do anything network related. So if you have questions, reach out. Everyone's kind of working from home at this point, so we have time to answer any questions you might have. So yeah, that is the end of the presentation. Let us know any comments if you thought it was too short, too long, too much information, not enough information. Any feedback is appreciated. Thank you and have a nice rest of the day. The chat will still be up, so yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to continue asking, and the moderator will answer to the best of their ability. Thank you for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.